Welcome back, everybody. Figured it was finally time to start work on the left wing. Got some good news from ABF yesterday. My replacement left wing spar, or I guess it's an original since I never had one to begin with, has finally made it to Houston. Unfortunately, ABF only delivers to the outlying areas like mine every Thursday, and since I'm going on vacation on Monday, plan is going to be I'm going to have to go down to the dock and pick it up the following Monday when I get back. But the new spar is in, so work on the left wing can start. So I decided I would start doing all the prep work and get the rear spar for the left wing built and ready. So now you see me gathering up those parts and peeling off the plastic, getting them cleaned and prepped, and the rest of this video will just be all of the prep work and final sizing for that rear spar. Once again, that doubler comes very bent from the stamping process, so I'm just tweaking it a little to get it to lay nice and flat. I don't want a bend in it when I go to final size those holes. So if you've watched my previous videos, you've seen me build the rear spar for the right wing. On this one, I decided I'd try and get some more close-up shots of some of the stuff I'm actually doing to make this one a little bit different, so hopefully there's some more detail in this one. Right now, just taking the parts and the edges to the 3M wheel and deburring and cleaning them all off, at least everything that I can reach. Those inside edges on that doubler I'm going to have to get with that smaller 3M wheel on the die grinder there, and here in a second I'll get out the Vixen file as well to get rid of the little stamped seam lines in there. That file set from Amazon has been so useful so far on this build. I don't think I've used everything in there yet, but I've used a lot of it. So now I am placing the doublers and quickly realizing I'm working on a left wing now, not a right wing. It's really important to make sure your orientation of all these parts is correct, because once you drill those holes, you're pretty well committed. And those two doublers have no holes in them yet, so where you drill them to is where they end up. It was a little weird getting used to the left wing because this actually matches the plans, and I'm so used to everything being backwards and mirrored for the right wing. Anyhow, you get the doublers put in place. That middle one has a measurement, I think it's 50 3/4 inches from the end. I looked at it and made sure it looked like I had adequate edge distance on either side for those rivets you see me drilling holes for right now. Adjusted it accordingly, clamped it in place, and now I'm drilling out number 30 holes for all of those ones on the face. The ones on the edge there is going to be where the skin goes later, and those are number 40. And now I'm just doing the same thing for the doubler that goes on the outboard end. And I'm just adding clecos as I go to help hold it in place in between more of the holes I have to drill. Random guest appearance by the daughter. Now I'm using the stencil tracing marker I have to trace out that middle hole. You see it right there. I'll slow this down for you. That is the hole I have to cut out for the aileron push tube. So over to the drill press. I've got it mounted in the drill press vise. I'm not putting much pressure on it to get that hole started because I don't want to bend it, but I've got it being held by that flange because I don't want this thing grabbing and ripping out of my hand. So now I am just using that giant unibit and just kind of chewing away at the metal until I get right up to but not over the line that I drew. And then it's back to the spar to use it as a template and the files. It's about 5 minutes worth of filing, maybe less, I don't know, it wasn't that bad. but I figured the file was the best way to creep up on it without getting too drastic. Definitely a hand-built plane. A little sandpaper, get rid of the file marks, smooth out the inside of the hole. Put it back together one more time just so I can run the sandpaper through both of them, get them nice and even. Now it's time to final size the wing attached doublers there. It's definitely easier the second go round having already done this, although the real challenge is going to be I'm recording this voiceover the next morning, so I need to go out there and clean and prime the parts, and then I'll get a video of me assembling them later today. That's the challenging part because there's so many rivets that do not get installed, and you have to make sure that you're picking the right holes. So I would say I could go look at the other rear spar, but unfortunately, since it's already assembled with wing ribs and a whole bunch of other stuff back there, those holes are all filled, so I'm kind of starting over again to make sure I get the right ones. Anyhow, I'm just using the number 30 reamer here to final size all of those holes. I try to use the reamers whenever I can for final sizing. They do make a much cleaner hole. And you just saw me mark the top there. I don't remember if I did all of those holes on the other one. I know I did the ones on the very edge, but because that doubler is so thick, it makes it really challenging to get the squeezer in there later on. So I decided to go ahead and dimple all of those holes right now, so I don't have to try and get in there and dimple them later. And I'm going to do the same thing for the other doublers. I'm going to dimple the doublers and the spar where they go together for the skin. Seemed to have worked out well on the right wing, so I'm just going to go ahead and do it again on this one. The only downside you'll see later on when I squeeze it, I'm going to have to get the hand seamer out and tweak the flanges just a little bit because those flanges are bent a little past 90 degrees, and it's such a tight tolerance in there that the squeezer tries to straighten the flange out a little. It's not so much a problem on the spar, but it is on the little doublers. But it's easy enough to bend back and fix. Now just scuffing up the parts with a Scotch-Brite pad, discussing musical choices with the wife there. And you can see the spar going from shiny to scuffed up. Then I got the squeezer out. It's time to dimple those holes. And the very last thing, I'll move the camera here in a second for you to get a close-up of, is the last holes on the outboard of the spar and doubler. The doubler needs to have the holes countersunk, and I use my little hand tool for that. And I've got a rivet, which I don't know if you'll be able to see or not, but I'm just checking the holes to make sure I'm not going too deep with them. But that's because a bracket's going to mount over it later. So those are the only ones on a doubler that get countersunk. Yeah, there you see me going after it. So yeah, that's it. On to paint, and the next video will be me assembling it. Enjoy the final closing pictures, and I will see you all on the next one.